She wasn't supposed to open that door. Not in the middle of a storm. Not to a man like him. Because on a place like Rosewood Hill, some lines were never meant to be crossed. And everyone knew what happened to people who forgot that. But that night, she didn't care. The storm had come fast. Wind tearing through the trees, rain crashing against the windows hard enough to shake the glass. The kind of storm that made the whole world feel unstable. Uncertain. Inside the big house, Eleanor Whitmore stood alone. Her footsteps echoed through long, empty halls. Rooms too large, too quiet. Her husband had been gone for months. At first, she waited. Then she worried. Now, she felt nothing at all. Not fear, not sadness. Just stillness. Until that night. A sound broke through the storm. Soft, barely there. A knock. Eleanor froze. Because no one came to that door. Not like this. Not at this hour. Another knock. Slightly louder this time. Real. She moved slowly. Not rushing, not hesitating. Just deciding. Because something inside her wanted to know. When she opened the door, the storm rushed in. Cold air, driving rain. And him. Elijah stood there, soap through, still. Like he had been waiting, not sure if she would answer. For a second, neither of them spoke. Because this was already wrong. He should have been at the back quarters. She should have sent someone else. There should have been distance. But there wasn't. Just the storm. And the silence between them. "Come inside," she said. The words left her before she could stop them. And the moment they did, something shifted. Elijah hesitated. Not out of confusion. Out of understanding. Because he knew what this meant. What it could become. And what it could cost. "I shouldn't," he said quietly. Honest. Careful. Eleanor stepped back, leaving the doorway open. "That's not what I asked." Another pause. Long enough to matter. Long enough for him to decide. Then, he stepped inside. And the door closed behind him. The storm faded slightly. Muted now. Like the world outside had been pushed away. Inside, everything felt different. Too quiet. Too close. Eleanor handed him a cloth. Their fingers almost touched. But didn't. That almost meant more than anything else. "Sit," she said. Soft, controlled. Like she was trying not to disturb something fragile. Elijah didn't move right away. Because no one had ever told him to sit there before. Not in that room. Not in that house. But he did. Slowly, carefully. Like one wrong move might break something unseen. For a while, they didn't speak. The fire cracked softly. Light flickering against the walls. It should have been uncomfortable. It wasn't. "What is your name?" she asked. A simple question, but not a normal one. He looked up, surprised, because she already knew. Everyone did. "Elijah," he said. Quiet, steady. She nodded, like it mattered. Like he wasn't just another worker passing through her life. "I'm Eleanor," she said. And that changed something. Because she didn't have to say it. But she did. Not as a title. Not as a role. As a person. The silence returned. But it wasn't the same. It held something now. Awareness. Possibility. Danger. You shouldn't have let me in, Elijah said after a while. Not accusing. Not warning. Just truth. I know, she said. And she did. Because this wasn't about a storm anymore. Or kindness. Or circumstance. It was about choice. And once a choice like this is made, it doesn't disappear. It stays. Growing. Changing. Becoming something else. Outside, the storm kept raging. Loud. Wild. Uncontrolled. But inside, something quieter had already begun. And neither of them was walking away from it. Morning came like nothing had happened. It always did. The storm passed, the sky cleared, and Rosewood Hill returned to its silence. From a distance, everything looked the same. Workers in the fields, the house standing still. Order, routine. But inside, nothing was the same. Elijah was already working when the sun rose, back where he was supposed to be. Hands steady, head down. Just another man in the field. That's what it looked like. That's what it had always been. But now, he felt it. Every movement, every breath. The memory of that night didn't fade. It stayed, sharp, clear, because something had changed. And there was no undoing it. Across the land, Eleanor stood by the window, watching. Not the house, not the horizon, him. From that distance, she shouldn't have been able to recognize him, but she did, without hesitation. And that alone was already dangerous. She turned away, stepped back into the room, trying to return to something familiar. But nothing felt the same. The walls, the silence, even the air. Because now, she knew what existed outside of it. Later that day, she walked out, not for duty, not for reason. Just walked. That was new, and people noticed. A glance here, a pause there. Nothing spoken, but seen. That's how things started, not with words, but with attention. Elijah felt it too, before he even saw her. A shift, something out of place. Then he looked up, and there she was, standing where she wasn't supposed to be. Closer than before, closer than was safe. He stopped working, just for a second, then forced himself to move again, because stopping was noticeable. You shouldn't be here. He didn't look at her when he said it, didn't need to. Maybe I want to be. Her voice was calm, too calm. That made it worse, because she wasn't unsure. She had decided. Elijah exhaled slowly. This has to stop. Now he looked at her. And this time, it wasn't distance in his eyes, it was fear. Not of her, of what this could become. Why? She asked. Not challenging, just honest. You know why. Say it. The words hung there, heavy, real. Elijah hesitated, because saying it made it impossible to ignore. This isn't allowed. His voice tightened. People like you and people like me. We don't get to choose this. Eleanor stepped closer. Slow. Deliberate. And what if I don't care about what's allowed? That changed everything. Because now, it wasn't just a moment anymore. It was a decision. You should, Elijah said. This world won't be kind to us. I know. And she did. But knowing didn't stop her. A few workers nearby slowed slightly. Not enough to be obvious, but enough. They were watching now. Carefully. That was how it spread. Not through words, through moments. You think I don't feel this? Elijah said. His voice lower now, more real. "You think this is easy?" He stepped closer. Too close. Too dangerous. "I wake up every day telling myself to stay away from you. To forget that night. To pretend it didn't happen. Another step. And then I see you. And I can't." The words settled between them. "No going back now." "Then don't." The simplest answer. The most dangerous one. A long silence followed. Wind moving through the grass. Distant sounds of work continuing. And eyes. Still watching. Elijah saw it. Felt it. The shift. This wasn't hidden anymore. Not really. If we keep doing this, they'll notice. They already have. That hit harder than anything else. Because it was true. Eleanor didn't step back. Didn't look away. If they see it, then they see it. You don't understand what happens next. I do. Tell me anyway. He looked at her. Really looked. Trying to find doubt. There wasn't any. "They take everything," he said quietly. "From you. From me. And if they can't control it, they destroy it." Silence. Real this time. Heavy. Eleanor stepped even closer. Now, there was no distance left. "Then maybe we don't let them." Those words changed the air. Because now, this wasn't just about feeling. It was about defiance. And that was something the world they lived in would not forgive. From across the field, someone was already turning away. Walking faster. Carrying something unseen with them. Not words. Not yet. But close. And Elijah understood. It had started. Not later. Not someday. Now. And whatever came next, there was no stopping it anymore. By the afternoon, it had already spread. Not loudly, not openly, but fast. That's how things moved on a place like Rosewood Hill. Not through words, through looks, through silence. A pause that lasted too long, a glance that lingered, a moment that didn't belong. And now, everyone had seen one. Elijah felt it before anyone said anything. Men who used to ignore him watched him now. Not directly, not obviously, but enough. Enough to change the air. Work didn't stop. It never did. But something underneath it had shifted. Near the edge of the field, two men spoke low. Heads bent, careful. One of them glanced toward Elijah, then quickly away. Like he had seen too much. That was how it started. Not accusation. Not yet. Recognition. And recognition was dangerous. Inside the house, Eleanor felt it too. Not from words, from absence. The way people moved around her. Too careful, too quiet, too aware. A maid avoided her eyes. Another hesitated before speaking. Like something had changed, and they didn't know how to act around it. Eleanor stood still in the hallway, understanding, without being told. They knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. And that meant it wouldn't stay quiet for long. By evening, someone stepped in. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deliberately. Mr. Whitmore's brother, Thomas Whitmore. He had arrived without warning, without announcement, which meant this wasn't a visit. It was a response. He stood in the doorway of the main hall, watching, taking everything in without saying a word. A man like him didn't need to ask questions. He already knew how to read a situation, and this one wasn't hard. Eleanor. Her name sounded different coming from him. Less familiar, more controlled. She turned slowly, facing him, not avoiding it. "You arrived early," she said, calm, measured, like nothing was wrong. He stepped closer, not rushing, but not casual either. "I heard something," he said, simple, direct. Eleanor didn't answer, because answering, Thomas watched her carefully, looking for hesitation, for denial, for weakness. He found none. He said quietly, not angry, not loud. Worse, certain. Eleanor held his gaze. "For who?" she asked. That caught him off guard. Just slightly. But enough. "For everyone," he said. "You. Him. This house." A pause. Heavy. Final. "This ends now." There it was. Not a warning. A decision. Eleanor didn't move. Didn't step back. Didn't look away. "No," she said. The word was quiet, but it landed hard. Because it wasn't uncertain. It wasn't emotional. It was chosen. Thomas's expression shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "I understand exactly what I'm doing." Another silence. This one sharper. More dangerous. Because now, it wasn't hidden anymore. Across the field, Elijah felt it. Didn't hear the words. Didn't need to. The shift had reached him. Clear. Unavoidable. Something had moved. Something bigger than both of them. And now, it was coming. He stopped working. Just for a second. Then looked toward the house. Because he knew. Before anyone told him. Before anything was said out loud. This wasn't a secret anymore. It was a problem. And problems get solved. That night, nothing felt the same. Not the house. Not the field. Not the silence. Because now, there were sides. And whether they wanted it or not, they had already chosen one. They didn't wait. Men like Thomas Whitmore never did. Because hesitation was how things got out of control. And this already had. The order came before sunrise. Quiet, direct, final. Bring him in. No explanation. No discussion. There didn't need to be. By the time Elijah reached the yard, they were already waiting. 2 overseers. And Thomas. Standing still. Watching. The air felt different. Not loud. Not chaotic. Controlled. Like something had already been decided. Elijah stopped a few steps away. He didn't ask why. He already knew. "You've been seen," Thomas said. No anger. No accusation. Just fact. Silence answered him. Because there was nothing to deny. You understand what that means. Another statement. Another line drawn. Elijah held his ground. Still. Unmoving. "Yes," he said. Quiet. certain. That answer bothered Thomas. Because it wasn't fear. It wasn't pleading. It was acceptance. And acceptance meant this hadn't been an accident. You'll stay away from her, Thomas said. This ends here. A command. Clean. Simple. Elijah didn't answer right away. Not because he didn't know what to say. Because saying it would change everything. I can't. The words landed harder than anything else. Because they weren't loud. They weren't defiant. They were true. One of the overseers shifted. Grip tightening. Waiting for permission. Thomas didn't look at him. Didn't need to. He was still watching Elijah. You don't have a choice. That was the rule. The one everything was built on. Choice didn't belong to him. But Elijah didn't move. Didn't look away. Didn't step back. Yes, he said quietly. I do. That was the moment. The one that couldn't be taken back. The one that changed how everything would end. Thomas's expression hardened. Slow. Controlled. But final. Then you'll learn, he said. A signal. Small. Almost invisible. But the overseers saw it. And that was enough. They stepped forward. Not rushed, not chaotic. Just certain. Elijah didn't resist. Didn't run. Didn't fight. Fight. Because this wasn't about winning. Not like that. It was about something else. Something deeper. They grabbed him. Hard. Forcing him down to his knees. Still, he didn't struggle. Didn't shout. Didn't give them what they expected. That made it worse. For them. For Thomas. Because control only works when it's felt. And Elijah wasn't giving it to them. Make it clear, Thomas said. Quiet. Cold. One of the men raised his hand and brought it down. Hard. The sound echoed across the yard. Sharp. Final. But Elijah didn't cry out. Didn't break. Didn't even look at them. He looked past them. Toward the house. Toward her. And that was when everything changed. Because she was there. Standing at the edge of the steps. Watching. She had heard it. Seen enough. Understood everything. For a moment, she didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't breathe. Because this was the cost. This was what he had tried to protect her from. What the world had promised would happen. And now, it was real. Another strike came down. Harder this time. Closer. And that was enough. Eleanor stepped forward. Stop. The word cut through everything. Not loud. Not desperate. Certain. The men hesitated. Just for a second. But it mattered. Thomas turned slowly. Looking at her. Really looking. This doesn't concern you. It does, she said. And that was the line. The one she couldn't uncross. Because now, she wasn't watching anymore. She was choosing. And everyone there knew it. Elijah looked up at her. Just once. And in that moment, there was no fear left. only truth. Whatever happened next, they were in it together. And the world around them was not going to forgive that. No one moved after that. Not the overseers, not the workers, not even Thomas. Because something had shifted, and everyone felt it. Eleanor stood there, no longer at the edge, no longer watching. She had stepped into it, fully. And there was no stepping back. Let him go. Her voice didn't shake, didn't break. It didn't ask. It decided. Thomas studied her, carefully, like he was trying to understand what had changed. Because this wasn't hesitation. It wasn't confusion. It was certainty. You don't know what you're doing. I do. Another silence. Heavy. Final. Thomas glanced at Elijah, still held in place, still unbroken, then back at her. And something in his expression changed. Not anger. Not disbelief, calculation. Because now, this wasn't just about him. It was about her. Her name. Her position. Her control of the house. You're choosing this. The question carried weight, more than anything else. Eleanor didn't hesitate. Yes. One word. But it ended everything that came before. Thomas exhaled slowly. Sharp. Controlled. Then gave a small nod. The overseers released Elijah. Reluctantly, but they did. And just like that, the moment passed. Not erased, but changed. Elijah stood slowly. Pain visible, but steady. He didn't look at the men. Didn't look at Thomas. Only her. Because that was what mattered now. The yard remained silent, watching, understanding. Because this was something no one had seen before. Not kindness. Not mercy. Choice. And choice was dangerous. Thomas stepped closer to Eleanor, lowering his voice. This won't end here. No, she said. It won't. But she didn't step back. Didn't look away. Didn't regret it. That was the part he didn't expect. And the part he couldn't control. By evening, everything had changed, not loudly, not all at once. But enough. People spoke differently, looked differently, moved differently. Because now, they had seen something. Not power. Not authority, but resistance. And once something like that is seen, it doesn't disappear. It stays. Quiet. Growing. That night, Eleanor stood outside. Not in the house. Not behind walls. In the open. Where everything had begun. Elijah walked toward her. Slower than usual. But still standing. You shouldn't have done that. His voice was quiet. Not angry. Just real. I know. She didn't deny it. Didn't explain it. I'm not sorry. That changed something in him. Because he believed her. You understand what comes next? I do. And you're still here. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. Just choice. Elijah looked at her. Really looked. At the person she had become. Not trapped. Not waiting. Deciding. I don't have much to give you. He said it honestly. Without shame. You don't need to. She stepped closer. Slow. Certain. I didn't choose you because it was easy. I chose you because it was real. Silence settled between them. Soft, different now. Then what happens now? Elijah asked. Not as a warning, as truth. Eleanor looked out across the land. The same fields, the same house, the same world, but not the same anymore. Now, we live with it. Not a promise, not a plan, something harder. Reality. Elijah nodded slowly, because that was enough. Not certainty, not safety, but truth. And sometimes, that's all people get. The night settled around them, quiet, unchanged, but beneath it, something had already begun. Not loudly, not visibly, but real. Because once someone chooses, truly chooses, the world doesn't stay the same, even if it pretends to. And on a place like Rosewood Hill, that kind of change never comes without a cost.